Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to a brand new episode on Crispy's TV. So with the 2020 Olympics right around the corner, looks like the controversies surrounding the same are not going to end really soon. To put it in easy words, we can say that this year's Olympics are going to be one which are marked by a lot of controversies, and in this video we will be discussing about one such controversy which has taken the entire athletic community into a storm. So without any further ado, let's shoot and dive into the video. So for the first time in the 2020 Olympics, or let's just say the history of sports, we will be seeing transgender athletes competing with their male and female counterparts in their respective disciplines, with New Zealand's weightlifter Laurel Hubbard being the first to do so. Now in this video, I won't be talking about the societal aspects with respect to transgenders right to participate in Olympic Games, or transgenders right to compete as an athlete as such, because we all know that sports and Olympics are one such platform per se which are not governed by societal aspects, rather they're governed by legal aspects based on medical science and research, and we will be divulging into the same in the forthcoming slides. So speaking about the historical perspective of how these laws came into being, it is pertinent to note that the Stockholm Consensus on sex reassignment in sports was one such landmark occasion. The reason it has been named as the Stockholm Consensus is because it took place at Stockholm on 28 October 2003, wherein the IOA and the panel of medical professionals so assigned came up with the following recommendations. So recommendation number A is there's no ambiguity pertaining to the same. Recommendation B is something which is an area of controversy, and I'll be discussing about the same. So the second recommendation basically says that individuals undergoing sex reassignment from male to female after puberty and the converse be eligible for participation in female or male competitions respectively under the following conditions: surgical anatomical changes have been completed, legal recognitions of their assigned sex have been conferred by the appropriate official authorities, and hormonal therapy appropriate for the assigned sex has been administered in a verifiable manner and for a sufficient length of time to minimize gender-related advantages in sports competitions. So post the aforesaid recommendations came the landmark judgment of Dati Chand, which was basically a game changer in all of sports history. Post all these developments, it became incumbent upon the International Olympic Committee to grant recognition to the importance of autonomy of gender identity in society and to ensure that trans athletes are not excluded from the opportunity to participate in sporting competitions. So the Dati Chand case, I will be making a separate video on that because it is not really relevant to what we're going to talk about in the forthcoming slides. Hence, the International Olympic Committee, vide the IOC consensus meeting on sex reassignment and hyperandrogenism in November 2015, agreed upon the following guidelines and made some guidelines which are basically in the nature of a recommendation and are not a law per se. So what these guidelines basically say or slash mention is that those who transition from female to male are eligible to compete in the male category without restrictions, whereas those who transition from male to female are eligible to compete in the female category under the following condition. A, the athlete has declared her gender identity as female. The declaration cannot be changed for sporting purposes for a minimum of 4 years. So we'll talk about this later. And then the athlete must demonstrate that a total testosterone level in serum has been below 10 nmol per liter for at least 12 months prior to her first competition, with the requirement of any longer period to be based on a confidential case-to-case basis, considering whether or not 12 months is a sufficient length of time to minimize any advantage in women's competition as such. So now that we've understood the evolution of the law per se, it's now time to shift our focus to the most important aspect of this video, that is the concerns and controversies governing or pertaining to the participation of transgender as female athletes in their respective disciplines. It is pertinent to note that in the recent past, several top-level athletes in their respective disciplines have voiced their concerns pertaining to participation of transgender athletes as female athletes in the forthcoming Olympic Games, with one such being Anna Bellingham, the Belgian weightlifter, who was quoted saying that anyone that has trained weightlifting at a high level knows this to be true in their bones. This particular situation is unfair to the sport and to the athletes. Further, she said that life-changing opportunities are missed for some athletes, medals and Olympic qualifications, and we are powerless. So while researching on this video, I stumbled upon an interesting yet comprehensive scientific research article titled Transgender Women in the Female Category of Sport, Perspectives on Testosterone Suppression and Performance Advantage. The aforesaid research article was basically aimed at reviewing as to how the biological characteristics of male and female affect sporting performances as such, and further assessed whether there exists any iota of evidence as such to support the assumption that testosterone suppression in women removes the male performance advantage and thus delivers fair and safe competition. So on a bare perusal of this interesting article, I came upon the following conclusions, which are enlisted herein below for a reference: that performance gap between male and female becomes significant at puberty and often amounts to 10 to 50% develop depending on the sport. In early childhood, prior to puberty, sporting participation prioritizes team play and the development of fundamental motor and social skills, and is sometimes mixed sex. Athletic performances, differences between males and females prior to puberty are often considered inconsequential or relatively small. So these 2 points are basically self-explanatory. So coming to one of the major points or the major conclusions, which goes as follows: that our analysis, that is the researchers' analysis, is such that strongly suggests that the reduction in testosterone levels required by many sports federations' transgender policies are insufficient to remove or reduce the male advantage in terms of muscle mass and strength by any meaningful degree as such. So at this point of time, it is very important to divulge into the scientific data, because a lot of you might not know that sporting regulations are based on scientific researches and evidences. So the authors of the aforesaid research paper carried out certain tests which are basically quintessential for the athletic performance of any athlete, which are these tests being the lean body mass test and the final grip strength, and the data and the results thereof they got were pretty much shocking. First conclusion they came to was that transgender athletes retained physical advantage over 8 years of testosterone separation, and that the loss of lean body mass, muscle area, and strength typically amounts to approximately 5% after an year of treatment. So going by these 2 conclusions, we can easily say that it makes the law redundant as such per se. So if you ask me about my opinion, I would say that based on the above mentioned medical facts, it becomes incumbent upon the IOC or the national federations and other stakeholders to either rely upon more scientific studies to devise new norms for transgender participation in male and female events, or open a new category per se, which is the mixed category, which includes which is exclusively for the transgender athletes, in order to ensure that there is a level playing field, specifically in an era when the world recognizes the trans community as the third sex. So that is basically from my end. I hope you guys really found this informative and learned something new. Do not forget to like, share, comment on the video, and please do not forget to subscribe this channel for more such opinionated content. I'll see you guys really soon. Till then, bye, take care, stay safe, and wear a mask.